Well, hello, and welcome to the Pastor Check-In with Pastor Brian here on Wednesday morning. It's awesome to be able to be with you once again. I am coming from a place in the church you may or may not know. If you are active in the choir, or like to sit in the balcony, or have done things up in Parish Hall and gone from Parish Hall to the sanctuary, you might know where I'm at just by looking at it. Or if you've been in the church long enough, you might know I am on the top floor right outside the choir room, above the steps that kind of connect one part of the church to the other. And at the other end of the hall I'm in, I can see the door to the balcony of the sanctuary. And there's just this little nice alcove here, right as you get inside the door from the stairwell, that I don't get to very often. But really, I'm not sure why I don't, because it is a great place to escape. People generally don't look here when they're looking to find you and you're hiding. So if you ever need a place to escape, this is a good place. It's also got a great view of the courtyard as well. And so, I have been thinking recently about the different forms of wisdom that maybe we have gained during COVID. And in the last few months, there's probably practical wisdom and lived experience, things that we have learned. Probably could come up with a few phrases and ideas over the course of COVID of things we have learned, proverbs, sayings that have come to mind during COVID. But what I love about proverbs and sayings is that if you look at the book of Proverbs in our Bible, it is full of sayings. And I've heard it said sometimes, if you read nothing else in the Bible but wanted to get smart, read through the book of Proverbs, because I believe it's got 30 chapters, so you could get through it in a month. Read through the book of Proverbs and you'd at least have some wisdom. And it's sort of true, because when you read through this book, every single verse is a nugget of wisdom. And if you actually know about Proverbs, it's a collection of ancient sayings that actually amount to some of the oldest stuff we have in our Bible, because some of it goes back to ancient Egyptians stuff and ancient stuff from ancient Israel, things over time that were collected and told and retold, sayings and proverbs that started to help people in later generations understand what their ancestors had learned and really value that information. I think sometimes in a modern world, we don't value as much what people have learned over time, because we're in a time of really rapid progress and moving forward and always looking at what technology can teach us and what new things we can do and learn. I think we sometimes forget that there have been a lot of people who have lived long time before us, who have wisdom and insight and things to teach us. And so we read Proverbs. It's called wisdom literature, along with Psalms and Songs of Solomon and other books in our Old Testament. But we read Proverbs especially to gain wisdom, nuggets of wisdom. And I'm just going to randomly read a few for you and just for fun today from Proverbs. So we'll go to Proverbs 25. Do not put yourself forward in the king's presence, or stand in the place of great, for it is better to be told, come up here, than to be put lower in the presence of a noble. That one's interesting. It's more honorable to be brought into a place of power and privilege than to assume that you are entitled to it. Very good advice there. Just going down randomly, verse 17. Let your foot be seldom in your neighbor's house, otherwise your neighbor will become weary of you and hate you. Some of these are kind of hilarious. This idea that you don't want to step too often into your neighbor's house, lest they might hate you. So tread lightly in those relationships. There's all sorts of good practical nuggets in here. We'll just do one other random one from Proverbs 3. Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all your heart, and do not rely on your own insight. It might seem like a simple phrase, but how powerful and true is that? And how often do we need to be reminded of that? Trust in the Lord with all your heart and don't rely on your own insight, because it ultimately will fail you. Rely on the Lord. So, I want you to consider today and this week what kinds of proverbs and sayings you have learned, God has given you the wisdom to understand. Over the course of your life, no doubt, but even in the course of the last few months. What are those things you have learned? What are those things you would want to pass on to later generations? You know, I sometimes wonder, and this is an interesting thought experiment, but I sometimes wonder, 2,000 years from now, maybe they will have decided to add more books and wisdom literature to our Christian canon, to our Bible. And I wonder if Proverbs were to be written with 2,000, 4,000 more years of lived experience, what would be added? Would there even be Proverbs that were learned and God blessed us with during COVID-19, during a pandemic, during national unrest? And so while I'm not advocating for us adding any of those into our canon anytime soon, I do wonder what God is giving us, what God is teaching us, and what kind of wisdom we are garnering in this unprecedented era. We've heard that word unprecedented so often, but what are we finding in this time? I give you that as something to consider in the days ahead as we navigate this whole thing together. As I've said over and over again, we are here for you. Drop a line, let us know that you're here. Let us know if you have anything we need to be praying for, that we should be aware of. And know that we care for you. And as we are beginning to do more in-person things in the church, we are not letting go of our online experience and our online connection. So anything we can do for you, we are first. We are your church family, and we love you. God bless you. Take care.